G'day. How you going? My name's Matt Fradd. This is the Victory Channel. Welcome to it. Today I want to take a look at something Pope Francis said this past Friday on pornography. He said it's a threat to public health. So we'll read through that. I'll give some comments, but if you haven't yet subscribed to this channel, please consider doing so. We have a lot of plans for the channel. As you've already seen, we're putting out really good content here, and we've got a bunch of plans for the future. My goal is to hit 5,000 subscribers by July 1st, so if you could help me meet that goal, that would be greatly appreciated. Okay, let's take a look here at what Pope Francis said. Pope Francis on Friday spoke about the challenges facing families, including threats to human dignity, such as pornography and surrogacy. He said, "We also talk about the scourge of pornography, which is now spread everywhere via the web," the Pope said at the Vatican on June 10th. "It should be denounced as a permanent attack on the dignity of men and women." Amen, Pope Francis. That's exactly right. "It is not only a matter of protecting children, an urgent task of the authorities and all of us, but also of declaring pornography a threat to public health," he told members of a family association network. Quoting a 2017 speech he gave to a Congress on child dignity online, the Pope added that, quote, "It would be a serious illusion to think that a society in which abnormal consumption of sex on the web," and all consumption of course is abnormal, "is rampant among adults, is then capable of effectively protecting minors." That's exactly right. Now, what I love about what Pope Francis said here is that it's an attack on the dignity of man and woman. Very often, people will have the question, what's wrong with pornography if I view it in moderation? People view pornography the way they view other habits that can become unhealthy. So they'll say, well, pornography's like gambling. Like, yeah, people can have a problem with gambling, people can have a problem with pornography. But when it comes to gambling, you might say to somebody, okay, learn to gamble in a way that doesn't negatively impact you or those that you're in charge of protecting and feeding, etc. And if you can't, then you're going to have to abstain altogether. Same thing with alcohol. People don't typically say alcohol in every circumstance is evil. What they'll say is, well, it's the abuse of alcohol that's evil. Well, what about pornography? Very often, even people in the anti-porn movement, of which I would consider myself a part, and I hope you do too, will focus on the negative consequences that result from pornography consumption or production or distribution without focusing on the primary reason pornography is a problem. Okay, so I would say, and I think you should say, that pornography is intrinsically evil. That is to say, the consumption of it is wrong because of the very act, because of what's going on. It's sort of like the difference between alcohol consumption and racism. People say things like everything in moderation, but they don't mean that about racism, or they shouldn't, and they do mean that about alcohol. So the question is, okay, is pornography like racism in that it's always wrong, or is it like alcohol in that it's wrong if you overdo it? What Pope Francis is highlighting here is that it's always wrong because it's an attack on the dignity of men and women. Now, there are all sorts of negative consequences of pornography. We could point to the fact that it's addictive, that it can lead to marital breakdown, that it can lead to sexual dysfunction, or that it contributes to mental illness, that it warps our sexual tastes. All of these things are, in fact, the case. They need to be addressed. We will be addressing it on this channel in the future with some of the world's top experts on these topics. But the primary reason that pornography is wrong is because it takes an inappropriate attitude towards the human person. Philosopher Karol Wojtyła said, "The human person is a good towards which the only proper and adequate attitude is love." Well, what do we mean by love? Well, Aristotle would say to love is to will the good of the other, and we might add for their sake. I love you if I want your good for your sake. I don't want my good at your expense. I don't even want your good for my sake. I want your good for your sake. This is what it means to love. Karol Wojtyła, in his work Love and Responsibility, said then that the opposite of love is use, where I treat you merely as a means to my end. And in the case of pornography, my selfish gratification. So I subordinate you, the good that you are, to the lesser good of my pleasure. I want to conclude with a quote here from Anthony Esolen, who I've quoted extensively in my book, The Porn Myth. Listen to this. He says, "The human body is a precious thing, worthy of our reverence. It is not a tool, not an object of consumption like a steak or a keg of beer, not an animate provider of pleasure. It is the outward expression of a profound mystery, that of another human being. When we meet another human person, when we look at his or her face, we are in the presence of a creature whose like we have never found in all the rest of the universe. The human person is open to infinity. He can do more than apprehend the things he observes. He can imagine worlds he has never seen." And you might think, okay, what does this have to do with pornography? Well, here's what it has to do with it. Honor and reverence is due to the astounding mystery of the human person. It is a contradiction to say, I honor the human person while treating the human body as separable from the person, you see, using it as a tool, devouring pornographic images of it. One cannot at once love the beautiful and desire to defile it. It is like loving the Pietà with an axe.